We are definitely in the midst of March Madness, but I'm not talking basketball, clearly. I'm talking about tariffs and products like car sales. And for Dwayne Paddock, this month has actually been a grand slam. His family-owned dealership, Paddock Chevrolet in Buffalo, New York, has actually seen its best sales in 13 years just this month.
We're going to turn now to new trouble for GM. It's adding nearly 1 million small cars to its ignition switch recall, which has been linked to at least a dozen deaths. And adding to the headache, the auto giant has suddenly stopped selling certain Chevy Cruze compact cars for no given reason at this point.
About this incredible machine.
Oh yeah, this is a 2025 Corvette ZR1, brand new. It's so new, it's not even at the dealership yet. But get this, 1,064 horsepower, wow, 233 miles per hour top speed. This thing is ready.
If you drive a Chevy or you've ever considered buying one, buckle up, because what's quietly been unfolding behind the scenes might completely change how you see the brand. From engine failures to strange corporate decisions that leave drivers on their own when problems strike, this isn't just about bad luck, it's about a pattern. And today we're breaking down the top 10 secrets, warnings, and red flags Chevy doesn't exactly advertise, but owners are finally speaking up about. Some of these issues could cost you thousands, or worse, put your safety at risk. Most Chevy drivers don't realize there's a reason why so many complaints about jerking, hesitation, and shuddering pop up when driving certain models. It all points back to one of the most frustrating mechanical nightmares in recent GM history: the 8-speed automatic transmission used in popular models like the Silverado, Tahoe, Camaro, and Corvette. This isn't a minor inconvenience. It's a known issue that's been ongoing for nearly a decade, and Chevy has been under fire for it since 2015. The problem: these transmissions, formerly known as GM's 8L90 and 8L45 units, have a tendency to slip or surge while shifting gears. Drivers have reported everything from hard downshifts that feel like the vehicle is getting rear-ended to delayed acceleration that can become a safety hazard during merging or passing. And if you think this is just an isolated batch, think again. Lawsuits have been filed. A class action was even launched because the shuddering and erratic shifting were so common that it became impossible to ignore. Yet GM's response has been underwhelming. Instead of a full recall, most dealerships offer what's called a flush and reprogram, essentially swapping out transmission fluid with a new version and updating the software. But many owners claim that this fix doesn't stick. The transmission goes right back to misbehaving weeks or months later, and out-of-warranty repairs can run well into the thousands. And here's the twist: some Chevy owners are trading in their vehicles early just to avoid dealing with it long term. That's right, they're quietly walking away from cars they otherwise love, simply because the transmission is a ticking time bomb. If you've ever felt your Chevy jerk unexpectedly or lag before catching up, don't ignore it. You might be experiencing a symptom of a much bigger problem, one GM still hasn't fully owned up to. The oil consumption problem they'll blame on you. This issue keeps showing up in forums, Reddit threads, and repair shop invoices, and it's one of the most frustrating experiences Chevy owners deal with. We're talking about excessive oil consumption, especially in certain Chevy models using the 2.4-liter Ecotec engine, and even the widely used 5.3-liter V8s found in Silverados and Tahoes. What makes this worse is that when it happens, you're often the one who gets blamed. Imagine driving a car that's only a few years old, only to find out it's burning through a quart of oil every 1,000 miles. And you had no idea until the engine started knocking. You didn't miss an oil change. There's no visible leak. But when you take it to the dealer, the response is often a variation of "that's normal." Or worse, they suggest you must have been negligent with maintenance. Here's the truth: in many of these engines, it isn't normal. What's happening is that oil is slipping past the piston rings and burning off internally. And for some owners, it's not a minor annoyance. It's engine failure waiting to happen. And if you didn't catch it in time, you're stuck footing the bill for a rebuild or replacement. General Motors has acknowledged some of these issues, even settling lawsuits quietly behind the scenes. But unless you know how to spot the signs early, or you know the exact terms of their special coverage programs, you're out of luck. Regular oil checks, keeping a log of top-offs, and getting dealer diagnostics in writing could be the only way to protect yourself, because once that engine seizes, it's game over. Chevy's hidden warranty rules. That only insiders know this one shocks most owners when they hear about it. Dealerships won't tell you this up front, but Chevy has what's known as special coverage adjustments, or silent recalls. These are internal programs where GM agrees to cover specific parts or issues, even after your official warranty has expired. Sounds helpful, right? Here's the catch. You have to know it exists, ask for it by name, and sometimes fight to prove your vehicle qualifies. Let's say your Chevy Equinox is suddenly throwing a check engine light and diagnostics show a failed timing chain. You're out of warranty by mileage. But what you don't know is that GM quietly extended coverage on certain VINs for that exact issue due to high failure rates. If you don't bring it up, most dealerships will charge you full price. But if you mention the bulletin number or reference the right internal memo, suddenly they find a solution. It's not illegal, it's just strategic. By keeping these extended coverages off the general public's radar, GM avoids a formal recall, which would damage the brand and cost millions. But that leaves everyday drivers in the dark, sometimes paying thousands out of pocket for repairs that might have been covered if they'd only known the right phrase to say. There are entire databases online where mechanics and car-savvy owners track these ghost programs. Some last years after warranty expiration, some require specific conditions, and most are buried in technical service bulletins, TSBs, that aren't even shared unless you press. It's one of the biggest industry tricks Chevy uses to control repair costs. And unless you're persistent, you'll never know you were eligible. Active fuel management sounds fancy, right? In theory, it's a system designed to improve gas mileage by deactivating half of your engine's cylinders when they aren't needed. But what many Chevy drivers are learning the hard way is that AFM might be the reason their engine is quietly deteriorating behind the scenes. This tech is baked into many Chevy V8 engines, including the popular 5.3 liter and 6.0 liter variants. And on paper, the fuel savings look good, but in practice, AFM has been linked to a slew of long-term engine problems, most notably lifter collapse and premature wear of internal components. The worst part, you often don't know anything's wrong until the engine starts making metallic ticking noises, or fails completely. Once the AFM lifters go, the only real fix is a full teardown and replacement, which isn't cheap. Some owners spend upwards of $4,000 trying to bring their engines back from the brink. Others give up and sell the car before the system fails entirely. And this isn't just a rare case. It's widespread enough that entire industries have popped up offering AFM delete kits to disable the system altogether. So why doesn't GM just get rid of it or fix it properly? Simple. It helps them hit EPA mileage targets. That means fewer fines and a better green image, even if it means customers are left dealing with the aftermath years later. If you drive a Chevy with AFM and notice any strange noises, or you're shopping for a used one, be very careful. You might be inheriting a ticking time bomb masked as a fuel-saving feature. Here's something most dealerships will never tell you when you're signing the papers on that shiny new Silverado. Underneath all the chrome and horsepower, there's a hidden rust problem that's been plaguing owners for years. And it doesn't matter if you baby your truck, park it in a garage, or live in a dry state. The issue isn't just cosmetic, it's structural. We're talking about premature frame corrosion that can compromise your vehicle's safety and resale value before you even realize what's happening. What's especially frustrating is that this problem isn't exclusive to trucks that are 15 or 20 years old. Owners of models from the mid-2010s, like the 2014 to 2018 Silverados, have reported discovering alarming rust damage on the undercarriage, control arms, cross members, and even suspension mounting points. And in many cases, it shows up just a few years after purchase. One day you're changing your oil and spot a patch of bubbling rust on the frame. The next, it's spread halfway down the truck like an infection. And no, this isn't just a used truck thing. Even lower mileage models are seeing aggressive oxidation. Why? It turns out GM has faced repeated backlash for using poor quality frame coatings and underbody protection in their manufacturing process. Rather than apply high-end rust-proofing treatments like some competitors do, GM relied on minimal coating to cut costs. And for trucks that are supposed to handle tough work and road salt, that's a recipe for disaster. Now, here's where it gets shady. If you bring this issue to a dealership and your truck is still under warranty, you might expect them to replace the frame or offer a serious fix. But most often, they'll hit you with a shrug and say it's within acceptable limits. That's because because GM's warranties don't cover rust unless there's actual perforation, meaning the metal has to rot completely through before they'll step in. By the time that happens, you're potentially dealing with a frame that's no longer structurally sound. The worst part, if you try to trade it in, many dealers will lowball the value once they spot the underbody, and if you plan to sell it privately, savvy buyers will check that rust and walk away. It's like your truck is aging in fast forward, and the resale value tanks with it. Some owners have turned to aftermarket rust-proofing sprays or even full-frame recoating treatments, which can cost hundreds or thousands of dollars. Others are stuck footing the bill for welding, part replacements, or simply selling off their truck at a loss. Either way, this isn't just a minor blemish, it's a hidden defect that undermines the rugged image Chevy loves to promote. So if you're buying used or noticing rust under your current truck, don't brush it off. You could be looking at a future safety issue that GM won't lift a finger to fix. Most drivers think of OnStar as a helpful emergency feature that kicks in when you need roadside assistance, or if you get into a crash. But what if I told you this subscription-based system is collecting way more data on you than you think, and that information could be used in ways you never agreed to? This isn't fear-mongering. Chevy's parent company, GM, has been quietly evolving OnStar into a full-blown data collection tool, logging everything from your driving habits to your location history, how fast you accelerate, where you brake, and even how often you use features like lane assist or cruise control. And if you're thinking that's just for safety, think again. Reports have emerged of OnStar data being sold or shared when with third-party companies, including insurance providers. That's right, depending on your agreement and location, insurers may have access to telematics data that paints a picture of how risky you are as a driver, and suddenly your premiums spike, not because of an accident, but because the car you bought has been quietly tattling on you the entire time. Even creepier, OnStar has the ability to remotely shut down your engine, chastain, or track your exact location if the company determines your vehicle is at risk of being stolen, or if law enforcement sends a formal request. While this can help in legitimate emergency situations, it raises serious questions about how much control you actually have over your own vehicle. In a way, your Chevy isn't just a car, it's a surveillance device on wheels. And the kicker, even if you cancel OnStar, some of the hardware remains active in the background. You'd have to manually remove or disable the telematics unit, which isn't exactly easy for the average car owner. Chevy doesn't openly advertise any of this during the sales pitch, of course. Why would they? But if you're someone who values privacy, this is a hidden cost of ownership you need to consider. That check engine light might be a design flaw in disguise. Here's something that'll drive you insane if you own certain Chevy models: repeated check engine lights for vague or recurring issues, often related to emissions or fuel systems, that seem to come back like clockwork, even after getting repairs. And what most people don't realize is that in many cases, these aren't just random malfunctions, they're hard design flaws baked into the system. Take, for example, the anti-evaporative emissions, EVAP system, in models like the Chevy Cruze, Equinox, and Malibu. This system is supposed to trap gasoline vapors and prevent them from leaking into the atmosphere. Sounds good in theory, but in practice, the system relies on small plastic components, like purge valves and charcoal canisters, that are prone to failure. When that happens, your dashboard lights up with vague error codes like P0442 or P0171. The car might run fine, but you'll still fail emissions or inspection. Fixing the problem isn't always straightforward. You could replace a valve only to have the light return a month later for a different part of the same system. Some dealerships will smoke test the EVAP lines to find leaks, but even then, pinpointing the exact issue can be like playing whack-a-mole, and the costs add up, hundreds here, hundreds there, all for a problem that stems from fragile parts that should have been more durable in the first place. And don't even get me started on the high fuel pressure sensors, and or MAF. Mass airflow sensors. These components also seem to be common failure points, often throwing codes that lead to unnecessary part swaps. Some mechanics say the real issue lies in the ECU tuning, meaning Chevy's computer systems are overly sensitive and quick to trigger fault codes even when nothing is critically wrong. Why would a company design a system that's this finicky? Simple: emissions regulations. To stay compliant, GM has to design vehicles that react to even the smallest inconsistencies. The problem is, the burden falls on you, the driver, to keep chasing down ghost errors and footing the repair bills. Chevy's lifetime transmission fluid isn't really for life. You've probably heard this one before. This car comes with lifetime transmission fluid, so you never have to worry about it. Sounds great, right? One less maintenance cost to deal with, but here's the ugly truth. That's a marketing term, not a mechanical fact, and it's gotten Chevy owners into serious trouble. Many modern Chevy models, especially from the last decade, came with transmissions that were marketed as sealed or maintenance-free. That includes the infamous 6-speed and 8-speed automatic gearboxes we talked about earlier. What GM means by lifetime is that they don't expect that the fluid to need changing within the warranty period. But if you plan to own the car past 60,000 or 100,000 miles, you're driving on borrowed time. Transmission fluid degrades. That's just science. Heat, pressure, and friction break down the fluid's ability to lubricate and cool properly. And when that happens in a sealed system, your gears start to wear faster, your shifts become rougher, and over time, you could be staring down a $4,000 transmission rebuild just because you trusted the no service needed line in the brochure. Even worse, Chevy made it intentionally difficult to service these units. There's no dipstick. You need special tools to check or replace the fluid, so most quick lube shops won't even touch it, and dealerships will often discourage the service altogether, until of course something breaks. Then suddenly it's your fault for not maintaining it. Smart Chevy owners have started to ignore the lifetime label altogether and change their transmission fluid every 50,000 miles like clockwork. It's not cheap, but it's way cheaper than replacing the entire transmission. The lesson here? Don't fall for marketing fluff. Your vehicle might be called maintenance free, but that doesn't mean it's consequence free. Shuddering, recalls that never reach owners. Most drivers assume that if their car has a serious defect, the manufacturer will notify them immediately. After all, that's the law, right? But in the world of Chevy, it's not always that simple. There are countless stories of drivers who only found out about recalls years after they were issued. Or worse, never at all. How does this happen? Sometimes the manufacturer sends recall notices to the wrong address, especially if the car was resold. Other times, the recall is issued as a voluntary service campaign, which means it's not classified as a safety issue, so there's no legal obligation to inform every owner. And in rare cases, the recall is so quietly handled that it never makes it into mainstream news or dealer urgency. Take the case of Chevy Bolt owners. In 2020, GM issued a major recall for his battery fires. Yes, actual combustion risks, but many drivers only found out because they read about it online or joined a forum. The same thing happened with certain brake system recalls and steering column faults. Unless you're actively checking the NHTSA database or running your VIN through GM's site every few months, you might never know your car has a dangerous defect. It's a broken system, and it puts the burden on drivers to be hyper aware of something the manufacturer should be handling proactively. So if you're driving a Chevy right now, especially an older model, it's worth taking 5 minutes to manually search for any open recalls, because waiting on a letter that may never come, that's a risk you don't want to take.